Hello, this is Psycho Miki, and today we are going to talk about something I really enjoy talking about, that it's suffering. What a paradox, right? You have to forgive me here because I'm going to get a bit self referential here, but it's something that I have been always kept very close to myself. Suffering has always caught my attention, had been here inside me. It was such an intense pain that I felt it went beyond the mental. Today, as a psychologist, trying to give myself an answer along with even trying to answer to myself why I'm suffering all the time, what it's suffering, and why we have to do it. I want to share a little bit of the answer that I can have today. And this started because I rewatched an animation that I made in 2020 in my house, working in the call center while studying psychology. I used to wake up, study, work, go to sleep. So this animation for me, I did frame for frame everything in my phone. That's why it's not so polished, but it's meaningful to me. Going back there, imagine me taking care also of my grandmother. At that moment, she wasn't at her peak, to be honest. So for me, the suffering I was at that moment, it was frustrating because it wasn't even something that I can symbolize. My life was an eternal cycle in which I would get up, go to classes, go to work, and occasionally something crazy will happen. My toilet breaking, and I will think, well, it will have to wait because I don't have the money to fix it. And I'm not going to enter in more details about that because this is not the point. I just wanted to share the sense of helplessness that I was feeling, how powerless I was feeling in this cycle that I couldn't get out. It's supposed to be my life. Why? I feel that everything has to be so horrible. Not understanding why I was living in a cycle of something that I didn't like, of something that I didn't want to live. I really prefer not to be here. If this is life, I'm not choosing it. I was waking up to do something that made no sense for me. First, I started as a technical support for here an application in Latin America that we have. So I was chatting all day, I was support for the riders. It was a delivery app. I have to reply every message under 30 seconds, and I have almost 10 chats at the time. So I have to reply under the 30 seconds each. So I have to play as a robot. That was another thing. I was feeling that I was doing robot job, I was working as a robot, and I was living like a robot. Well, of course, they fired us. But the whole thing about this, it was that life was pointless. What's the point? To reply messages under 30 seconds, be as fast as typing, having studied since I'm 5 years old to get here. Yes, I have to be the best, so you can have the most. I'm not going to talk about salary because I will start crying. But the salary didn't even let me live because sometimes we have to pay the pills of my grandmother. She was so heavily depressed. I was living in a super disgusting loop. And I was wondering, hey, why I don't just stop living, right? What we are going to do, this is so hard for both of us. And sometimes I wondered, is there another kind of life? It feels like every day is the same. You look back and you don't remember what happened. What day is today? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? I don't know. I always thought It was connected to some brain damage that I had. Maybe I was born like this. Maybe I have something that makes me feel so depressed, even when I'm just 7 years old. And I clearly must have that problem, yes. That's why I study psychology, to understand the mental health problems. I wasn't sure what it was. I keep trying to find an answer to that. So my whole life almost had been rounded that question. And also I found some people with whom I connected a lot. People I read and listening to. And they helped me to give more meaning to what was happening to me. They made me realize that I wasn't crazy. This animation was just a way to expressing it. I spent so many hours doing it, and it looks shitty, I know, but it makes me feel better. I still remember when I drew every frame by frame, and I didn't have any computer to do it. It took me like years, but it was nice to do some pointless thing, but expressing myself. I was finding me in that. But let's get to the real point in here, that it's one of that person that connected to me. Mark Fisher appeared in my life with Capitalism, Realism. Yeah, I read it in Spanish, so realismo capitalista, we will say. When I was like 8 years old, I used to just, in the breaks of classes, watch the sun and think, why do we exist? Why humans have to do this? What is death? What it's to be alive? This is to be alive? Why I can't play as everyone else? Why I'm sitting here thinking about death? So over the time, I learned to accept that part of me, to understand that I'm not going to understand everything. God damn it. That was very difficult to me. But I also understood that having that connection with authors like Mark Fisher, Virginia Woolf, Leonor Silvestri, she's an Argentinian writer. I don't know, that kind of connections, the connections with my animals. I don't know, that made me feel better. Finding myself, why I have this connection, because it makes me put words in that things that I have been thinking so hard. And maybe to hear, to read different perspectives about the world make me feel better. So Fisher talked about how time seems to be frozen. We no longer work 8 hours, free time clearly seems not to exist. Everything feels isolated, as if we never managed to do everything we want to do. Feels like time never pass. It's a very strange temporal paradox. So something that interests me a lot is how Fisher suggests that eternal present is just not a psychological issue, but also a political one. Depression not only as individual problem, but as something generalized, created by the discourse in which we all live. Today our life feels like every day is getting harder. So many tools to do so many things. Robots that can dance salsa. You don't have anyone to dance with? Don't worry, now you have it. We think about the future and we don't imagine calm futures, right? But rather an extension of the present, where crises never end and the only compass is to keep improving, constantly surprising ourselves. It seems the blame always falls in the individual. If you are depressed, it's because you're not strong enough. The person is held responsible, not the system that wears us down. This is reinforced with therapy. Yes, now I'm going to talk about you, psychologist, disgusting psychologist. Yes, I'm talking about me. Haha. Medication and ways to self-optimize. But what does better means? Who defines it? Be better. Come on, touch the grass, see the sun, eat better. Marcelo Persia talks about having a small canoe in the sea of meanings. Yes, this is a metaphor that I'm doing about his book. Marcelo Persia talks about living life as we are in a small canoe in the sea of meanings, which I find a beautiful metaphor that I just do because I'm so humble. We don't need a solid foundation, but rather a small boat that allows us to navigate the chaos of the universe without getting lost. When I went to China, I experienced a sense of tranquility, even though I was in Shanghai, one of the most populated cities in the world. I felt like I was in a small town. There was simplicity in action, in connected with people, a cultural difference that impacted me deeply. I already told you, I'm from the global south. Yes, I'm from Argentina. And yes, I don't think there is any magical solution for suffering. I don't even know if there is really a problem per se. But we can think of tools to create, to act, to feel differently, and not live in an eternal burnout. Fisher talks about how the future is no longer projected as a transformation, but rather as an extension of the present. The present in which minor changes occur. Now we wear different kind of clothes, and the crisis seems to never end. They become normalized. Yeah, I'm from Argentina. I'm really sure that you have been hearing, or I wish that you have been hearing about the crypto bro scam of the president of this country. And speaking about this paradox about the only present we seem capable of existing in is this one, let's discuss about the hyperconnectivity of the present. It seems that we are more and more connected. I'm not saying anything new, I know. You have probably heard this thousands of times. But sometimes being on social media, it's like talking to the void. And I really believe it's even more frustrating than that. Because even when you are talking into the void, there is no one there. On social media, everyone is there. It's present. But your presence is just not so important. What's the difference between you, a crypto bot? So thinking about depression as something epidemiological happening in the world make me feel a little bit better. There is a problem. Something is going on where mental health issues are on the rise. Anxiety is increasing all the time, and it seems as if life is becoming harder every day. And when we talk and when we think about it, and note, I'm not saying that the guiding principle should be simply to enjoy the present. There is this narrative of self-improvement. I already talked about this in eugenetics in my Spanish channel, of wanting to be better, even beyond our genetic limit. Always better, you will be never enough. The answer is always calm down. Don't worry, here it is, that self-help book, that person, that emotional coach. If you want to succeed more in the outside world, you need to succeed by working in your inner self. The only part that you can control in your life. The more you work, the faster you can go. Who says that I want to be faster? I just need to stop for a moment. I'm really having a panic attack. In this narrative, mental health issues are attributed to a lack of resilience, suggesting that you're not strong enough to face depression. Come on, get up at 6 a.m. in the morning, get some sun, and don't eat any croissant. I'm so funny. There is this man's trying to sell be better, do burpees and get stronger, etc. And a lot of people criticize them. But yet, these approaches are very similar when it comes to a person who is depressed and they said, come on, just put it more effort. When someone can't find their place in the world, who feels excluded, it's as if the blame plays on that person, that they lack the resilience, the strength to move forward. We can laugh about Andrew Tate or the other versions of Andrew Tate, but we are not so different. And I'm not just talking normal people, I'm talking also about us, you and me. And also to the psychologist. Yes, there is a lot of approaches blaming to the person. And I know a lot of people is going to be like, hey Mika, what are you talking about? What are you talking about psychologists? There is a scientific paper that says that this can... Yes, I know, of course I know. I studied it. But the systemic problems aren't in that paper. I think we have to not zoom so closed, you know? We have to open it a little bit. It's not like you have to work 12 hours at a job that doesn't make any sense, because of course a robot is going to do it better than you, and then you are going to clean the robot's ass. Well, I don't know if robots had to be clean in their asses. Well, I don't want to get over there. Chung Han, when he talks about society and performance, make it clear, but it might sound trite, that everything I discuss deals with informational overload. We have an endless flow of stimuli on social media, in the news, and nothing really reaches. It's as if things simply pass by us, and yet we don't know what happened. With TikTok, we just watch it. Who was speaking? Who I am? We are not prepared to process this amount of information properly. The shrinking attention span, the fatigue it generates, and the resulting ontological insecurity. Because yes, who we are. This is something very characteristic of our lifetime. The ontological insecurity, it's not something that, it just appeared. Of course, all the philosophers have been asking, who am I? What its subject means? Yes, that's how Aristotle used to talk. So it seems right that there is always a lack of a clear sense of identity, yes. And we try to understand, because there is no answer. I'm sorry to tell you that. Who talks a lot about that? Jacques Lacan. But I'm going to talk about Jacques Lacan in another episode of this channel. Having no answer, start something beautiful, really. It's the desire to see who we are. Okay, I don't know who I am. Does identity have any sense? I should trust in the significance everyone is putting me? Oh, well, don't worry, that insecurity is completely normal, and more now that meanings are exploding. So going back to Marcelo Persia, we need that stable footing on which to anchor ourselves. Just a little bit, because when you're really in the middle of the sea of meanings, you can drown yourself. But if you have a little boat, and with boat, yes, I'm talking about meaning, but give me the space to be poetic this time. Let me the space to be a poetry girl. I'm not. Yes, there is a chaos in the universe, and nothing can be structured even a little. And then the freedom is kind of difficult, because where I should start if everything is just a mess up. It is messing up everything. So finding our place where we can stay a little bit, and if we have to change it, well, we've changed it. It doesn't matter. We have to adapt. Nothing not everything falls apart of you. Because finding the meaning of life has been the question of humanity since its very beginning. And this reminds me a bit of the issue of guilt. Yes, guilt and identity. Guilt was examined by so many authors, but you know one of my favorites, that it's Nietzsche. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have been hearing a lot about it. And we are going to talk just a bit because I'm tired of talking about Nietzsche. But let's talk about genealogy of morals, which I believe we have already touched so many times. And well, he explores how guilt can function as coercion. To these days, I feel that guilt it's a rampant ideology that makes you feel responsible for everything. Did you get sick? What did you do to get sick? Are you working 14 hours a day? What did you do to be poor? There is guilt and self-surveillance in trying to be better. A matter of control. Because you don't even need an external structure to tell you what to do. You have only yourself to rely on. You are the only one telling to yourself you are doing everything wrong. Don't you realize why you didn't study engineer instead of psychology? Don't you see you're going to die of hunger? Yeah, I'm so funny, right? Well, societies of control. Yeah, Foucault. We also discussed about Foucault. And another part of society of control is psychoactive drugs. Psychoactive drugs are linked not only to making us feel better, but rather act as a kind of placebo to alleviate the suffering of the dysfunctional life we are having. It's very strange, we could say, that nowadays more and more psychoactive drugs are consumed, and there are even prescriptive for issues that perhaps we never considered problems before. There is this criticism of Fisher, his pivots where there is no room for hope or even attempts to justify it from his own perspective. I believe we should take what he said, not to perform a psychological analysis of Mark Fisher, but because I think he offers us something that makes us think. I also want to offer another perspectives about this problem, because sometimes I might sound a bit pessimistic, as if there is no alternative, but I'm not saying that. The entire answer lies solely in the symbolics, but I do believe that even constructing the symbolic part is important. So that's why this time I bring some Chinese philosophers. I think something happened to me when I went to China in my search to understand why I was so bad at understanding things. I went to China because I won a scholarship in my university, and I felt something different that I couldn't clearly explain. It was simply my life. It was the simplicity of life. I told you, even in one of the most populous cities in the world, I felt happy. I felt connected. One thing that really caught my attention was that wasn't any kind of socially imposed mask. It was simply, this is my face, take a look. And that didn't cause people to hate you or take it personally if you don't smile. That was the feeling. That anything that you do weren't personal. And I started to wonder why this difference? I truly believe it's a cultural issue based on how I feel. I lived there 3 months and I felt that matter of detachment. A Chinese philosopher talked about it. The Taoist philosophy invites us to consider an ethical difference in life. For example, Lao Tse writes that capitalism often makes us believe that accumulation is better than simply that more is better. But Taoists remind us that, so in conclusion, today's suffering is not a public health issue, but rather the result of a system that turns time, the body, the emotions into commodities. Who also talked about this? Eva, into commodities. And if we really want effective therapy, it won't be sitting down and talking about our emotions. I'm sorry to tell you that. Which can help a lot, I'm not saying that. But then going back home to spend 10 hours into the beautiful call center just to be able to buy that expensive egg maple product you have been waiting for. Because you remember, you have also to go to the gym. Nothing, not even emotions, as Eva Ilnos says, should be reduced to an economic resource. We're worn out. And what do you think will be the results? That's the question I lead to you. I'm just throwing the ball into your court. See you next time. I love you all so much. And share this video, comment, and do all the things that social media tells us we should do. I don't know. See you next time. Goodbye.